A frightened woman knocks on a single-dad farmer's barn door in the middle of a storm, asking for help before the people following her find her. But the farmer has no idea that opening that door will uncover a hidden truth about his land, his future, and the woman who may change his life forever. Before we continue, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? The storm had already moved east, but the farm still carried its damage. Rain dripped from the roof of Callum Baird's old barn in slow, uneven taps. The yard was black except for the narrow circle of light around the lantern in his hand. Beyond the fence, the fields looked silver under the moon, soaked and quiet, as if the whole county was holding its breath. Callum should have been inside with his daughter. Lacey had fallen asleep on the couch with her math homework still open, one sock missing, her cheek pressed against the sleeve of his old flannel shirt. She was 8, but grief had made her careful in ways children should not have to be. Since her mother passed 2 years earlier, she listened for every sound in the house, as if love could disappear if she blinked too long. Callum checked the horses, latched the feed room, and turned toward the house. Then came the knock, not from the front porch, from the barn door. 3 soft hits, a pause, then 2 more. Callum froze. No one came to a barn at midnight unless they were desperate, lost, or trouble. He lifted the lantern higher. "Who's there?" A woman's voice answered, thin from cold. "Please, I need help." When he pulled open the door, she stood just beyond the threshold, rainwater darkening her brown sweater, hair clinging to her cheeks. She looked at him like she had already decided not to trust him, but had nowhere else to go. Callum noticed the details first. Mud on her boots, a scrape near her wrist. No pies, no coat. Her breathing was steady, but her hands were shaking. "My car went off Briar Creek Road," she said. "I saw your barn light. That road's half a mile back. I walked. In this weather?" She gave a small, exhausted smile. "I didn't have a better idea." Callum stepped aside. "Come in before you freeze." She hesitated. That told him more than any answer could. "I've got a daughter inside," he said quietly. "I'm not looking for trouble." Her eyes softened at the word daughter. "I'm not bringing trouble on purpose." That's a strange way to say no. She looked down. Callum shut the barn door behind her, not all the way, just enough to block the wind. The lantern light warmed her face, and for a second, he saw how tired she really was. Not just from walking, from carrying something too long. "What's your name?" he asked. "Mara." "Last name?" She swallowed. "Whitlock." The name touched something in his memory, but he couldn't place it. Callum grabbed a horse blanket from the rail and held it out. She took it with both hands, careful not to touch him, as if kindness might cost extra. "My house is warmer," he said. "You can sit by the stove. I'll look at your car after sunrise." "No," she said too fast. "I mean, the barn is fine. You're soaked. I've slept in worse places." He studied her. That's not something people say when life is going well. For the first time, Mara looked directly at him. There was fear in her eyes, but there was pride too. The kind of pride that survived being cornered. Before she could answer, the farmhouse door creaked open across the yard. "Dad!" Lacey called, wrapped in a quilt. "Who's in the barn?" Callum turned sharply. "Lacey, go back inside." But the girl had already seen Mara. Mara went still, her expression changing from guarded to ashamed, as if being seen by a child made her situation more real. Lacey walked closer, barefoot in her rain boots, quilt dragging behind her. "She's cold." "I know," Callum said. Lacey looked up at Mara. "Do you like cocoa?" Mara blinked. A fragile laugh escaped her, almost silent. "I haven't had cocoa in years." "Then you should come inside," Lacey said, like it was the most obvious answer in the world. Callum sighed. "Lacey, what?" Mom said cold people get warm drinks first and questions second. The words hit him gently and painfully. Mara noticed. For a moment, no one spoke. The barn, the rain, the tired horses, the sleeping farm. Everything seemed to wait. Then headlights swept across the far fence. Callum turned. A dark pickup slowed on the road beyond the pasture. Mara's hand tightened around the blanket. "That's the truck," she whispered. Callum lowered the lantern, shielding its flame with his palm. The pickup stopped. No one got out. Lacey moved closer to her father. Callum's voice dropped. Mara, what did you bring to my farm? She stared at the headlights, and when she answered, her voice was barely above the rain. The truth. The pickup idled on the road for nearly a minute. Its headlights cut through the fence rails, white and hard, reaching across Callum's wet field like fingers. Nobody inside the truck moved. No door opened. No voice called out. That made it worse. Callum kept Lacey behind him and looked at Mara. Inside. Both of you. Mara shook her head. If they see me go into your house, they'll know you helped me. They already know you're here. You don't understand. No, Callum said, calm but firm. I don't. But I understand my daughter is standing in the rain while strangers watch my farm. That was enough. Mara lowered her eyes and followed him across the yard. Inside, the farmhouse smelled of wood smoke, old pine floors, and the cocoa Lacey insisted on making with too many marshmallows. Callum locked the door, then checked the window beside the sink. The pickup was still there. Mara stood near the stove, wrapped in a horse blanket, looking out of place in the small kitchen. She didn't touch anything. Not the chair. Not the mug Lacey pushed toward her. Not even the towel Callum placed on the table. You can sit, he said. I don't want to make this your problem. Callum gave her a tired look. You knocked on my barn door. That part already happened. Lacey smiled a little at that, but Mara didn't. She stared at the cocoa as if kindness confused her more than danger. Callum sent Lacey upstairs after promising he would not let the woman leave alone. Lacey argued for half a minute, then obeyed, but only after placing a blanket on the chair beside Mara. When the stairs creaked quiet, Callum sat across from her. Start with why a truck followed you. Mara wrapped her hands around the mug, still not drinking. Because I took something from my office. What kind of something? A file. Callum's eyes narrowed. That doesn't sound like a stranded driver problem. It isn't. The pickup finally rolled away outside, its red taillights fading beyond the trees. Mara exhaled, but not with relief. My father's company is buying farms across this county, she said. Small ones first. Tired families. People with debt. People who trust a friendly handshake because they don't have money for lawyers. Callum went still. Now he remembered the name. Whitlock Land Group. The letter had arrived 3 weeks ago. A clean envelope. A polite offer. More money than his farm was worth on paper, but not enough to replace what it meant. He had thrown it in a drawer and tried not to think about it. You're one of them, he said. Mara flinched at the way he said it. I was, she replied. Callum leaned back. The room suddenly felt colder. So this is what? You got lost while helping your father take my land. Her face tightened, not with anger, but hurt. No, I got followed because I found out the offers weren't honest. Callum said nothing. Mara reached under the wet sweater and pulled out a sealed plastic folder from beneath the blanket. The papers inside were dry. They're not just buying farms, she said. They're using inside information about the county waterline expansion. Land values will triple once the state project is announced. Farmers are being pressured to sell before they know. Callum stared at the folder. His first instinct was not trust. He had learned that desperation could make people sound sincere. He had also learned that wealthy people could do damage with soft voices and clean shoes. Why bring this to me? He asked. Mara looked toward the staircase, where Lacey had disappeared. Because your name was on the next list. The words landed heavily. Callum's jaw tightened. Mara continued, quieter now. I was supposed to help close your sale by Friday. My father said you were emotionally vulnerable. A widower, dead on the farm, a child to care for. He said men like you only needed one push. Callum looked away. For a second, the old shame came back. The overdue feed bill. The tractor repair he couldn't afford. The nights he stood in the barn, wondering if love was enough to keep land alive. Mara's voice softened. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix much. No, she said, but the truth might. He looked at her then. Something passed between them. Not romance yet, not trust, but recognition. Two people who had been trapped by different kinds of family pressure. Two people who knew what it meant to be useful to others until they finally broke. Why turn on your own father? Callum asked. Mara's eyes shone, but she didn't cry. Because he turned me into someone I couldn't stand. The kitchen went quiet. Then a small voice spoke from the hallway. Dad, Callum turned. Lacey stood halfway down the stairs. I heard the truck, she said. Is someone trying to take our farm? Callum closed his eyes for a second. Mara looked devastated. Callum stood, but Lacey wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Mara. Are you here to help us? The girl asked. Mara's face changed. The fear was still there, but something steadier rose beneath it. Yes, she said, if your dad lets me. Callum looked at the folder on the table. Outside, the road was empty again, but the danger had not left. It had only become clearer. By morning, Grant Voss from Whitlock Land Group would arrive with contracts, smiles, and pressure dressed up as concern. And Callum had one night to decide whether the woman who came to his barn door was a threat or the first real chance his family had left. Callum did not sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table with Mara across from him, the plastic folder open between them, while the farmhouse settled into its old wooden silence. Every page made his stomach tighten. Maps, offer letters, internal notes, names of farms he recognized, families from church suppers, school fundraisers, county fairs, and feed store conversations. Not criminals, not fools, just tired people who had trusted the wrong smiles. Mara explained everything in a low voice, not like someone trying to impress him, like someone trying to repair damage with the only tool she had left. By dawn, Callum had made coffee strong enough to taste bitter before it reached his mouth. Lacey slept upstairs again, one of Mara's dry socks beside the bed because she had insisted Mara's feet must be cold. That small kindness stayed with Mara. At 7:30, a black SUV came up the gravel drive. Callum watched from the porch. Mara stood just inside the screen door, cleaned up but pale, her dark hair still damp at the ends. That's Grant Voss, she said. Callum nodded. Stay inside. No. He turned. Mara's voice was quiet but steady. I ran last night. I'm not running this morning. Grant stepped out in a navy coat, holding a leather folder. He looked polished enough for a city boardroom and calm enough to make pressure feel like advice. His eyes moved from Callum to Mara, and for the first time, his expression lost its smoothness. Mara, he said, your father is worried. No, he's angry, Mara replied. There's a difference. Grant gave Callum a practice smile. Mr. Baird, I apologize for the early visit. We had hoped to finalize your offer today before market conditions shift. Callum leaned against the porch post. Market conditions? Grant's smile held. Land value can be unpredictable, not when you already know about the water line. The silence that followed was small, but sharp. Grant looked at Mara. Callum stepped down from the porch. You came here thinking I was desperate enough to sign fast. Maybe I was yesterday, but not today. Grant lowered his voice. I'd be careful. Documents can be misunderstood. That's why I sent copies to someone who understands them. Grant's face hardened. Who? Callum glanced toward the road. 2 trucks pulled into the drive. One belonged to Nora Pell, a county legal aid attorney who had helped Callum after his wife's hospital bills nearly swallowed the farm. The other belonged to Wesley Trask, editor of the county paper, a man who still believed local news mattered because local lives mattered. Mara had called them before sunrise. Not for revenge, for accountability. Grant's jaw worked once. This is a family matter. Mara stepped onto the porch. No, it became a county matter when families were targeted. For a moment, Callum looked at her in the morning light and saw her differently. Not as the frightened woman from a barn. Not as the daughter of a powerful man. As someone choosing the harder road because it was finally honest. Nora reviewed the first pages right there on the hood of her truck. Wesley asked careful questions, recording nothing until Mara gave permission. No one shouted. No one threatened. That made it feel more real. By noon, Grant left without the contract signed. By evening, 3 farmers had called Callum after Nora contacted them. By the next week, Whitlock Land Group paused all county purchases pending review. Mara's father tried to deny knowing, then tried to blame Grant, then finally resigned when the state investigation began. It did not fix everything. Callum still had debt. The tractor still needed repair. The farm did not magically become easy to keep. But now he had time. And sometimes time was the difference between losing everything and finding a way through. Mara did not go back to her father's company. She stayed in the county longer than planned, helping Nora build a farmer protection fund and reviewing contract for families who had never had someone explain the fine print without charging them first. At first, Callum told himself she was only there because of guilt. Then spring came. Mara helped Lacey plant marigolds beside the barn. She learned which horse hated apples but loved carrots. She laughed for the first time without looking over her shoulder. And Callum, who had spent 2 years keeping his heart locked behind work and grief, found himself leaving coffee on the porch for her before she asked. One evening, weeks after the storm, Callum found Mara standing in the barn doorway where she had first knocked. The sky was soft purple. The lantern hung between them again, but this time no one was afraid. "I almost didn't knock that night," she said. Callum looked out over the field. "I almost didn't open." Mara smiled faintly. "That would have been inconvenient. For both of us." Lacey ran past them toward the fence, laughing as one of the horses tossed its head in the warm dusk. Mara watched her, then spoke carefully. "I don't know what comes next." Callum looked at her. "Neither do I." That was the truth. Not a promise. Not a perfect ending. But when his hand brushed hers, neither of them moved away. The farm behind them was still weathered. The road ahead was still uncertain. But inside the old barn, under the soft lantern light, the place that had once held fear now held something quieter and stronger. A beginning.